What's up everybody, I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior in the 2021 Kia K5. So Kia was kind enough to drop off this EX trim as well as the GT line trim, which is a few $1,000s cheaper. It's a little bit lower on the trim spectrum. And so I'm really excited because I can finally show you guys what a base or a lower trim version looks like, and also what the top of the line looks like, so you get a good idea of what you're missing out on and what you get with these nicer trims when you pay the extra money. But man, I think the K5 interior is super nice.
Yeah, I really like the wood here in the interior. I know it's not on the lower version, but I really like this one, and it feels really nice and it looks nice.
Yeah, it's a really high quality. I mean, I don't know if it's real or not because it actually has a texture to it, so it feels very authentic in its look and its feel. And I think it's really nice. And I mean, the smooth plastic you get there in that GT line version is also a very nice material, but this just is so classy and just looks so nice. And then combined with this metal plated plastic, it's cool to the touch, and I love these little grooves you have in it. It's just like such a cool design and so classy. Kia just does such a good job with their new interiors, and they always manage to blow me away. You have nice padding here on the top of the dashboard. You do have some plastics that feel a little cheaper, but they're still padded for the most part. You do have hard plastic down by your knee. That's the only complaint. I wish that was padded, but really I think only Mazda pads that area as far as midsize sedans go. So that's not super common, so I can't blame them too much because everything else in here is just so nice. But yeah, anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats, so you have here in the EX trim, they are ventilated and heated leather seats. You do in the GT line version, you get leatherette with cloth inserts. Those are not heated or cooled, which is kind of strange. That one as tested is about $28,000 still, and you don't even have heated seats, which is kind of strange. Usually that's a pretty low-end feature these days on cars. At least here in the EX trim you do get those features, and I think they're pretty comfortable seats.
Yeah, they are really comfortable, and I do have to say that the cooled seats work really well.
Yeah, they do work better, I think, than most of the competing cooled seats. Hyundai and Kia do some of the best. This one doesn't seem, at least for me, to get quite as cold as like the Forte GT that we had with those cooled seats, and a few of the other, like the Telluride, I think it's like really freezing cold with its cooled seats. These don't seem to be quite as good, but they are close, and again, still better than most cold seats out there. And so I think they still have done a really good job here with these ones. We didn't try out the heated seats because it is August, but I'm sure they work fine as well. But yeah, they're really comfortable seats. I do wish that the bolstering was a little bit tighter, but this isn't a sports car, it's a family sedan. I just noticed on back roads I was kind of sliding around a little bit more, but that's what the GT version of the K5 is for. That is going to have a much sportier interior. And if you want an idea of what that interior is going to look like, I did do a quick drive last fall in a Sonata N-Line, which has the same engine and is on the same platform as the K5 GT will be, and that'll give you an idea of the sportier seats and steering wheel and what that might be like. But anyway, great seats here. The steering wheel is also very nice here in the K5. So there's a couple of different designs. This EX version here has nice metal trim, but it's a nice round wheel. I like the metal here on the sides of it. It just feels so high quality. Again, we're feeling like it's like a class above a lot of the competitors. I mean, some of the nicest competitors in this segment do have a pretty similar steering wheel as far as having metal on it and stuff, but this one's really nice. The GT line has a flat bottom steering wheel too, which is really cool, and that has some metal trim on it as well. Neither of them have paddle shifters though. That's a notable thing because a lot of the competitors do offer those. You don't get any paddle shifters in any version of the K5 unless, again, you go to that full-blown GT version coming this fall. But still a really nice steering wheel. And in this one, it is also heated, but even in a regular EX trim, you don't get a heated steering wheel as standard. You have to add on an extra package for a few grand more, and that's why this one, as tested, is a little over $32,000 with that package on it. That package also gives you this panoramic moonroof, which I think looks really great as well and kind of lightens up this cabin.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive, especially with the amount of money that you're spending on this car to get one of these.
Yeah, I mean, because aside from this and the Sonata, I don't think anyone else offers a panoramic roof in this segment. And that's a really nice feature, and it's something that, you know, more and more vehicles these days are starting to adopt. But Hyundai and Kia are some of the first here to offer that in this segment. It just really is a cool feature, especially for backseat passengers. They have such a great view above with that huge glass pane, you know, roof there. So that's an awesome thing. Next to the gauges here in the K5, which honestly is the only underwhelming part of this interior, I think. You know, so these gauges kind of feel like they're just carryovers of the old Optima gauges. They did change the graphics a little bit on that center screen, but it's still just this tiny little center screen. And I could see maybe for a base model K5 that would be fine, but for this fully loaded version to still have really basic gauges, I'm just a little underwhelmed with them. And they only do the basic stuff too, as far as it'll give you your navigation directions, but otherwise just trip information and a digital speedometer, and that's it. And so that's a little underwhelming. That is one key area where, even though this and the Sonata are on the same platform and share many components, the Sonata in the higher versions gets fully digital, beautiful looking gauges. This, there's no way to get digital gauges in this. Maybe the GT will offer them, I'm not sure, but here in the regular versions of the K5, no digital gauges and a tiny little screen in the middle. Seems like a little bit of an oversight. I wish they would have at least done a larger center screen there, like you get in the Stinger, for example, if not fully digital gauges. You know, so that's the only disappointment there, but they're still fine gauges, just it's not as, you know, much of a wow factor as the rest of this interior is. But coming over to the center of the dashboard here, here in the EX trim, that is one thing that is kind of a wow factor, is this 10.25-inch widescreen display, which is really beautiful looking. And this is running the latest version of Kia's infotainment system, which I'm new to. This is brand new for 2021, I believe, because even the Telluride and stuff has a different software version. And so, as you'll see, the weird thing is the home screen is pretty blank. It just has your, you know, time, your climate, and then you have just a very small little view of part of a map, but it's kind of just obscured. And I guess they're trying to be artsy with that. But what I loved was, you know, with the K900 and the Telluride, you had three little segments. And so one would be navigation, one would be radio, and one would be whatever else you want it to be. And I really like that because you'd have everything at a glance. With this, it's relatively useless, honestly, for your home screen. And then if you wanted to go into the actual menu stuff, then you pull that up here, but you have to swipe over every time to get into that. Then I do love the way that this is set up. It is super cool. The graphics for everything, I love, like the radio. I mean, I'm a retro lover, and so having this like vintage looking radio set up here is really cool. It's something totally unnecessary. They could have done just something bland and normal like everybody else, but someone was creative with the way they designed that, and I think that's a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, it is really nice. The only thing that I'm kind of upset about is that it is slanted towards the driver. So as a passenger, it is fine and I can see it, but you can definitely tell that there's a slant. And in the other version that we're testing out today, it does have a smaller screen. So I feel like that is a little bit harder to see than this one is, but it is still nice and I can see it. I just hate when things are not straight on.
Yeah, that is kind of strange, especially with the more complicated infotainment systems get these days. I like having the passenger kind of control the radio and do that kind of stuff, and so it'd be nice if it was just normal so that you could use it just as easily. But at least this one isn't slanted as much as some of the others, which can be a little bit more aggressive with that slant. But yeah, and it also is nice you can do the split screen functionality here, so you can have your maps and your radio up there. Just, you're gonna have to forget about that home screen. Just have something like this set up instead. This also has, if you watched our Sonata review, this has the sounds of nature. You can have a lively forest. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do in here. And so there's a whole list of calm sea waves, rainy day, all these things. And they are very soothing and they're very high quality sound clips.
I don't know if I would like the open air cafe though. It's just like basically people talking and like glass moving. I don't know. I don't think that's very relaxing, but if you do, then there you go.
Although maybe in these COVID days that we're in, it's a nice thing to be like, oh, I remember what it was like to actually sit out in an open cafe and not have a care in the world. But yeah, it's just a very strange thing. But I think it actually is kind of cool. I don't know how many people would actually use that. Maybe we could ask, you know, people that bought a Sonata last year. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing there. Another couple weird things. So it does have standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in all K5s. And so here in this 10.25-inch version, it's a wired in Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which isn't anything new. We've been used to plugging in our phones for CarPlay over the past several years. But the strange thing is this upgraded screen has that, but the base screen has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So you don't have to ever plug in your phone. And that's really nice to not have to bother with that and to not have cords, you know, draped all over this center stack and stuff. It's nice because honestly, the only USB jack you can use for CarPlay in here is this one out in the open. There is one in the armrest, but you can't use that. That's just for charging. So you're going to have all your cords exposed and stuff, which is kind of annoying. And so the wireless, I think you're actually kind of downgrading when you upgrade to this screen. You get a smaller screen with that one, but you don't have to worry about ever plugging in your phone, which I think is a luxury in and of itself. So that's kind of strange. Supposedly it's just an issue with the hardware. This hardware doesn't support wireless, but the lower hardware does, which seems kind of backwards, but hopefully they get it fixed someday. But at least for 2021 model K5s, you're gonna have to plug in your phone here for CarPlay if you go for these higher versions, so just be aware of that. Also, that base screen gives you a tuning knob. Here in this higher screen, you just have a volume knob only, and you have the seek and track capacitive touch buttons way over here on the other side, a little bit of a reach away, so that's not great either. You also have on-screen seeking if you'd like to do that as well. And there's also, of course, steering wheel buttons, so most people probably just get used to that, and that's fine. So yes, but that's it as far as this infotainment system. It's very good. Another thing to mention though, one last thing, is it's tied in with this Bose Centerpoint stereo system here and these top trims with this 10.25 inch screen. And so it's 12 speakers. The base system is 10 speakers. And I actually, since I had both systems to compare back to back, I listened to the same music at the same volume in both of these vehicles. And this Bose system, it is better. Now the base system, I was really amazed. It's really good. So even if you're really into music, you're not missing out on much with this Bose system, but it is better. I noticed that the Bose system was a little bit more three-dimensional with its sound characteristics. Like with instrumental stuff, I could pick out instruments a little bit more clearly than just the really clear standard sound of the bass stereo. You also do have the 2 extra speakers, and then I also noticed the bass was better here in the Bose system. So if you listen to bass-heavy music, there was a little bit more thump here in this than there was with the other lower system. So those are the only really takeaways I noticed. I don't think it's an absolute must-have for the Bose system, especially if you prefer having a tune knob and wireless CarPlay. No issues just sticking with the base system, I think, as long as you're okay with the smaller screen size. But this system is a nice upgrade still. But anyway, moving on down to the climate controls here. Just 2 basic knobs, a nice little digital display for it, and just a nice little row of toggles. Very simple, that's very nicely done, and the knobs have a nice little feeling to them. Although it's not maybe quite as high quality as like the Accord's climate control knobs, if I'm really nitpicking, because those are like actual solid metal and feel really nice. But this is a close second, still a very nice climate control area.
Also, there is this little wall in the center channel that's kind of in my way for anything I would need in this center console, and that's kind of annoying if anybody is a passenger in this car, because the driver can get it easily, but maybe the passenger can't. So that's one thing that's annoying, especially if there's a drink in the cup holder. You just like won't be able to use that space.
And I get the whole like, oh, let's make it a cockpit style feeling, but I mean, this is a family sedan. Like, there's no reason to make this feel like a cockpit, you know, especially considering that there's, you know, just so many people that are driving this with passengers. If this were a sports car, you very rarely have a passenger or something maybe, but yeah, it just seems a little, I mean, it's not a huge deal, it's not like a gigantic wall, but yeah, just an unnecessary obstruction.
Yeah, you could still reach over it, but it's still annoying. I wouldn't want to have to deal with that every day, especially being a passenger. Yeah.
Also in this area, you do have those 2 cup holders. I like the little metal trim ring around them. You have a shifter here, which is kind of sporty with this T-shaped handle. I like that. And then you have also, here in the EX version, you have this gloss black finish here around this whole center area. And this is like just a normal matte black kind of plastic that's a little cheaper feeling in that GT line. So they do upgrade some of the materials here in the EX. And then you will also see that they have now added in this wireless charger here right in front of your center armrest. And it is a good idea. We actually just were complimenting Cadillac on this a few weeks ago, how they have a very similar design. The difference is the Cadillac design has lots of rubberized padding, and it's very smooth and soft in that area so that you can put your phone in there even if you don't have a case or a screen protector like me. I'm one of those crazy people. I can slide that in there and it's totally fine, but this is hard plastic. And also, to make matters worse, the only way that charging pad really works well is with this little insert that they have here which has this little area, and I'll even do a close-up here on it. And so this has to be pushed down, and this is a little bit, I guess, textured, but it's not very soft feeling, and so you have to put that in and then slide your phone through that. And it's all hard plastic, and like even if you have a screen protector, you're not going to want to be sliding your phone, scraping it through hard plastic every time you want to do this wireless charging.
Yeah, and the worst thing about it is that for me, I have a case and a pop socket, and it doesn't fit through there at all. My phone is just way too thick to get in there so that it can charge. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, so you can, like I said, remove that little piece, but it doesn't seem like it wants to do wireless charging if you don't have that pressure up against it with that piece there. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Now here in this EX version, you're gonna have to plug in your phone for CarPlay and stuff anyway, so most people probably are gonna just have their phone plugged in through a wire, and you're not gonna ever use this wireless charging pad. Maybe just use it as a little extra bin or something if you want. But just, I think that could be a really great design if they just made it a little bit softer, put some rubber in there, and you're good to go. But as it is right now, it's just not great with its setup, I think. Anyway, though, behind that you have the center armrest, which does have a little bit of padding to it. It's not the super plush, stuff you get in maybe some of the others. I think maybe the Honda has a little bit of a softer armrest. Not a big deal though, it's still pretty nice. And you open that up and you'll see a good sized bin here that actually in this one has an additional USB jack for charging, but that's only here in this EX version. The lower GT line did not have this USB jack, so you're going to lose that. And so that's one thing I said. You also lose 2 speakers in that GT line, so that lower trim you lose out on that. And then moving on to the back seat here in the K5, so it's obviously going to be the same amount of space regardless of what trim you're in, and it's a really nice back seat. So they did make the K5 about an inch lower here for these new versions, and so that does mean that headroom is a little bit on the tight side. I mean, I'm 5'9", and I still have a couple inches to spare, but it's not a super spacious sedan as far as headroom goes. Now legroom is excellent. Again, being 5'9", sitting behind myself, I easily have about 6 inches of legroom to spare back there. I mean, it is super luxurious as far as how much space you have as far as legroom goes. So that is really, really good. You also have a fold-down center armrest with 2 cup holders built into it. There's bottle holders in the doors. And when you look forward, all K5s get 2 USB jacks back there in the rear seats, which is very nice that they have that. But this EX trim, you have the air vents for the rear seat passengers. But in the GT line version of the K5, that does not have any air vents. So that is something you lose out on in the lower trims as well. So just keep that in mind. A lot of interesting little, features you gain and lose between trims. They're not all the same, and it's not you just get leather and a bigger screen, and that's it. There's lots of little things they tweak depending on the trim package you get. And so when you do have those air vents, so they're super nice, the same great metal trim you have up front here. And so either way, still a really nice, comfortable back seat. But you do get a lot of really good standard equipment in any K5. They all, like I said, come standard with that 8-inch touchscreen with the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which is great. And they also all get standard dual zone climate control, which is something that's usually one of the first things you lose out on when you go down to a base trim. Not so in the K5. You do always have that dual zone climate, which is a very nice thing for them to include as standard. And a standard K5 still undercuts all the competitors. Even the Sonata that this is based on is about $80 more expensive for the base trim. These start just around like $24,400 for the base model, which, yeah, like I said, it's not only cheaper than the Sonata, it's cheaper than the Accord by about $500, and it's cheaper than the Camry by about $900. So it really is a strong value. And again, you are getting your less of those features you see here in this top trim, but you still get a very nice interior for, well under $25,000, which is pretty awesome. But anyway, the last thing is the trunk here in the K5, which is also very competitive and very impressive. It's a nice wide opening, very deep trunk there. Whenever you look beneath the floor, you'll see also a spare tire, which is great that they still include that. And so a good amount of trunk space. I think as far as the cubic feet numbers go, the only competitor that actually beats this is the Accord, which has a slightly larger trunk. Otherwise, this is the biggest in its class, I believe. And so, I mean, it's going to be plenty of space for anyone that's, buying a mid-sized sedan. It's a really good amount of space back there. There isn't any kind of, power function or anything like that, but you will see little tabs there to pull to drop those rear seats. They do fold flat if you, want to pass things through from the trunk into the interior here. But yes, that's all our thoughts here on the K5. Overall, I think it's one of the nicest interiors in this class, if not the nicest. I think the Sonata might feel a little bit higher tech with their digital gauges and stuff. but I think the materials are really nice in here.
Yeah, I think these Kias are really blowing a lot of different cars out of the water, and it's very surprising. And I know a lot of people aren't that crazy about Kias, but for the money, what you're getting, I really think it's impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, they're just not afraid to take chances. You know, they have these super nice materials. The exterior styling is way more exciting than your average Accord or Camry or something. Even though the Camry, they're really trying to make it in your face, I think this looks way cooler than a Camry. And so, I mean, obviously those are subjective things. You might not like this interior or the exterior, but I think that they are giving 110% at Kia and Hyundai, and I think they want to change people's perceptions. And I think this is, you know, definitely continuing on with that theme that they already started with the Stinger and the Telluride and so many other impressive vehicles. I think this continues on with that, and yeah, I think Kia is one of the most exciting brands to watch, because every single year they come out with something that constantly raises the bar for that segment, constantly blows our minds with just how nice it is for the money. I don't know how they do it, but it's really impressive, and you get a 10-year 100,000-mile warranty to top it all off. So yeah, they do such a good job with these. But anyway, let us know your thoughts on the K5 in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. Huge thanks to Kia for providing us with 2 K5s to compare. That was a very cool thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.